Hey everyone, it's my favorite day of the week, Monday. I love Monday so much because it's a chance to get back on the horse, to get realigned, to set new goals, and just really get going on your dreams. Welcome back to the Live with Audacity podcast. I'm your host, Melissa Stewart, and today is a super fun episode with one of my online besties, Karina Lanting. I realized lately that I've been showing up as a super serious, passionate person, which I am totally those things, but I need to start incorporating more of my fun side. No better time to debut this episode with Karina because we have so much fun hanging out and talking about all things network marketing and health and business and just laughing together. I don't want to hold you up too long because this episode is so jam-packed. I hope you feel like you're hanging out with two silly girls who just love to talk. You're listening to the Live with Audacity podcast. I'm your host, Melissa Stewart. Audacity is defined by Merriam-Webster as intrepid boldness or disregard for normal constraints. And that's exactly what we have here. The Live with Audacity podcast is aimed at giving you the courage to explore your someday dreams, do things your way, and start making things happen in your life right now. I'm a mama to 4 kiddos ranging from college student to kindergartner, wife to a high school football and track coach, and a multi-passionate entrepreneur. Together with my guests, we're going to teach you how to live with audacity and intentionality, discover and utilize your unique skills and talents, and step into who you are meant to be in order to make your someday dreams a reality. Are you ready? Here we go. Hey everyone, thanks so much for coming back to the Live with Audacity podcast. I'm so glad you guys are all here. I have one of my friends that I've met online, but seriously, she's becoming like one of my besties. We always have so much fun talking and chatting and laughing together. Karina Lanting, she is a Canadian, yeah, and she's an online entrepreneur. Karina, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you do?
Hello. So it's really true about us Canadians up here. We're like nice to a fault. I'm probably on that borderline where it's like, I'll tell you how it is. I am an online entrepreneur. You can find me at myname.com. And what I do is I help people transition into healthier lifestyles and then learn how to monetize that because everybody is doing that nowadays. And if you're not, you're missing out on a really big opportunity. So I have a podcast that I talk too much. It's called Karina Talks Too Much. Melissa was one of my very first guests on there. You guys have got to go check out that episode. It's obviously on Living with Audacity. And I get to meet all kinds of cool people on the internet and rock it out like Melissa. Hello. So fab. We do not hang enough. You guys are going to have so much fun with us today.
Okay, so when we first met each other, we realized that we had an unusually a lot of things in common. That sounded really weird. Um, but we both have husbands that grew up on ranches. And you're also from a town, what is it called? Harrison something.
Hot Springs. It's a tiny little, it's not even a town. It actually qualifies as a village. And it's about an hour outside of Vancouver, BC. So I live on the West Coast here.
How awesome is that? And is it always cold in Canada?
You know what? I think the rest of Canada, like Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, Ontario, all over there, it's cold. It's cold AF over there. BC is known for the best coast. We really are because we have more of a temperate climate. So we get a little bit of snow in the winter. I mean, not like when I was a kid here, but maybe like a week of snow in January. But mostly it's rain because we are a rainforest. So it's beautiful and green, and we've got lots of lakes and rivers. But because it's so green, we just, for about 7, 8 months of the year it rains.
Oh, wow. Is that
It's like
so?
it's like when you watch Twilight and you know the whole, like, bit about, like, why vampires live there because you never see sunlight, that's here.
Oh, no. How are you so cheery with no sunshine?
Um, a lot of things. Oh, yeah. I
Oh, man.
following my passions, I think honestly that really helps me stay happy living here, but there have been many times where I've been like, "This is sad and depressing in the middle of November, and I wanna move and leave," but it's home. It's beautiful.
Awesome. Okay, so I know you and I have talked a lot about your network marketing business. I know you sell Arbonne, but tell me why you got into Arbonne and why that was the one thing that meant a lot to you.
Yeah. So, I think we all have that perception of what network marketing looks like. I also thought, it was just like something for cute shoe money. People didn't really do it to make real money. And those stories that you hear, it's like, yeah, right. They had to be a weirdo to do it. I fell into it actually totally not looking for an existing business. My husband got really sick and we couldn't really figure out what it was. And after, a lot of years and a lot of tests, it was wheat was his number one trigger. And so my doctor was like, you're going to need to find everything needs to be gluten free because he's really severe. He's like how people are with peanuts to touch. He's like that with wheat. So like toothpaste and like all that stuff, right? So my
Oh
doctor,
my word, are you kidding?
I'm not kidding. So it's more than like celiac disease, and so this is sort of what's led me to why I've gone back to school. But going back, I was introduced to the Arbonne brand just because it was a gluten free vegan option, and at the time I had two little kids. They were like 1 and 2 years old, and grocery shopping was a nightmare because I had to read the back of every single label. And so for me, it was just a lot easier to order most of my things online. So I turned to online grocery shopping. I turned to online shopping for my personal care products. And then when I realized there was a business attached to it that I could be earning off of all the things that I am buying anyways, I was like, okay, what? So I went to one of those things and I came home with like I was like excited, but like my head was in between my knees. Like I was just like nauseous. And I remember I looked at my dude, like, I think I'm gonna have to do this thing because it's such smart business and it's a lot more, really true to business than most people think it is. It's very similarly structured to most small businesses or even large corporations. And it was very ethical, the company. So I had been introduced to a bunch of different companies, never wanting to like join the thing. But the more I learned about the company and how, they've been around for a really long time, they have a charitable foundation, everything's carbon neutral, and like just really, really high quality of standards, it made it easier for me to just sort of get on board, grow this thing, and share it with other people. So, how we don't be slimy, that's a whole nother thing because I'm sure everybody's got that friend in their feed right now that's like on day 41 of their beach body. And I'm not judging. I love to see all of these women working from home because it really is the biggest growing industry right now. But there's a way to do it. And you have to have your end game in sight always, and it has to be a long end game. It can't be a get rich quick, I'm here for the quick money, I'm gonna do things that maybe compromise my own integrity, but if it leads to a sale, it's okay. I don't teach those kind of business practices because I want to have people that have businesses that last 10, 15, 20 years because that's what my company breeds.
Yes. No, I love that so much. And I literally just said earlier, I was talking to a friend, and I was like, yeah, people generally get into network marketing because they feel like it's a get rich quick scheme. And then they're disappointed when that doesn't happen. And so a lot of people have a foul taste in their mouth for it. And I think there are some slimy companies out there, but I love that you chose Arbonne because it's the right thing for you. Tell me how important you think it is that you believe in the product or the product and the company that you back and that you promote.
Well, I mean, I think that's everything. Even if you are starting your own business from scratch, creating your own product, you have to be in it. You have to love your product and it has to be this non negotiable for you. So for me, it was easy because we were already an entire family that was a product of the product. I was already using the makeup and the skincare for years prior to joining the business. My husband relied on the nutrition and the personal care products. And then I slowly started getting my kids on the vitamins and stuff like that. And so for me, it really was when people asked me, hey, I'm going gluten free and I don't know what I can have and what I can't, it was an easy recommendation for me because we were using it. We are users. And I know for a fact that I will continue to use these products forevermore. And so for me, when you can demonstrate that to somebody that this is an expense that you're going to have no matter what for the rest of your life, unless if you're not going to wash your hair and brush your teeth anymore, you're going to be buying these things. And so if you can switch your brands over to a clean company like Arbonne that direct delivers, I don't ever see the products I sell. Like people just go to my .com, they order it, it goes directly delivered to them, and I get a commission from it. So it is interesting, like when you look at, you mentioned like some of the network marketing businesses are scheming. And I think the biggest distinction that I tell people when they're researching it or when they're looking into it, because I want it to be a good fit for everybody, right? Like there are other companies that I've looked at their products and I'm like, whoa, that totally aligns with my lifestyle too. But Arbonne to me is truly a whole lifestyle product. Plus, they have amazing benefits and incentives that will keep me there forever. But when you are researching companies, the number one thing that you want to look for is how you get paid. And so that makes the difference between a legitimate company and a pyramid scheme or a Ponzi scheme, which really is a thing. And so the difference is if you are making income based on signing people up into your business, that's most likely a pyramid scheme. So what happens there is you're earning an income off something that's invisible, right? Like you're not selling a product, you're just getting a bonus for bringing people in. And that breeds really bad business practices because people are then just after that right now money, right? Like just signing all these people up and not actually teaching them how to move products sustainably, consistently over time. And so you want to look for a company that pays solely on your overrides or your commission. So direct commissions is like what you move personally, and overrides is what the people in your team move. So that's how I get paid. And that distinguishes a legitimate business from an illegitimate business. It makes it no different than, Sephora down the street that's selling the Kat Von D and their store makes profit. I make money the exact same way.
Interesting. Okay. That is really good information for people that really prefer that network marketing
Model.
style of business. I think that's a lot of great feedback for people to know what to look for if even if they are approached by someone and they're like, oh wow, this is really cool. You've given them really great tips on things to look for within each business that they may be considering. I
There's
love that.
a lot of great businesses out there in the network marketing industry, and it is a shame that it has kind of a stigma. But I do feel like the tides are turning. In the last 5 years, I've really seen an increase in people really using it as a social marketing business, and they've done away with the home party. Like I don't do a home party. I don't do anything like that because that's just people don't need to try before they buy anymore, right? Like people are so
Right.
accustomed to shopping online. And I mean, how many Instagram pages do you visit where it's like, visit my bio for $5 off? Like I'm not interested in doing those kinds of partnerships because your profit margin is really, really low and you're constantly looking for new ad sponsors and partnerships. So whether people want to admit they are doing network marketing or not, the majority of influencers are out there doing that and they're not gaining their full potential by partnering with a really big brand that can offer them some serious perks. That's my
Awesome.
personal opinion, but we can talk about network marketing the whole time. I'm super passionate about it. I really love the industry, and I wish that more people, just kind of put that stigma down and it's like, you know what, maybe there is something here for me in this because I do tell people where I got my lipstick if they ask me. And that's really all I do. I'm just like a walking, talking brand ambassador.
Right. So I know that you obviously you sell Arbonne, but really you have a really big umbrella of things that you do. I know that you have your group that you teach and coach entrepreneurs, whether they be network marketers or just having an online business, how to use social media in the best ways. Tell us a little bit about that.
So a lot of my groups online or areas online are actually feeds into my Arbonne business. And so the way that I've structured my online presence is to really always lead from education and inspiration. So I want to give people the information that they need to make the best choices in their business, in their life, in their health, and whatever, right? Like I'm not a convincer. That's not for me. I don't drag people into my business. I don't need clients. Like I want you to be excited to try it and really fall in love with the products. And so when I create, I have a support group for all general business. What ends up happening is people really get to know you, the host, and then they want to work with you. And so it really is just like a gigantic funnel for me. Everything I do is a gigantic funnel for me into my Arbonne business. And it's funny because people email me. I get daily emails being like, I was on your podcast or I was listening to your podcast. I'm like, what do you mind me asking? Like, what do you do? Like, how do you make money? And that has been my goal, is to have it so people will approach me and ask me how I'm doing what I'm doing. So I'm not that spammy person that's always posting about my Arbonne business on Instagram. Maybe like one every 10 or 12 posts, I'll put something up there. But that's not what social media is about. That's not what people are there for. And it really is, for me, just like a way for people to see that this really is my life. It is a lifestyle business, and I work it into like the 20 minutes of my day here and there that I have, because most people want this like really quick fix. Like maybe it's like this dramatic change, or like 3 days away at a retreat and you're going to come back and be like this new person. And like, news flash, baby girl, that doesn't actually happen. What actually leads up to success is really small changes every single day that you implement into your life. And so what I've done is just make sure that I'm always feeding the content machine in those groups, just little bits here and there. I repurpose content. I, put something that was a blog post into an email sequence. Like I'm constantly retweaking how I'm bringing people into my business, and just serving them the best that I can. So a lot of what I do, it looks like, is for free, but I promise you it pays off for me in the end.
Yeah, yeah, that's awesome. I love that you touched a little bit on the servant leadership idea, because fully embrace and believe in that. And your, like you said, serving your community and serving the people by your podcast, by your group, by all the things, but yet it's all, yes, you're serving them and leading them, but you're also getting something out of it because it's all a big funnel, like you said, for you. I think that is the most ideal way that you could probably set something like this up. And I think you're doing a great job at it.
Oh, thank
Um,
you.
yeah, for sure. Tell me, what is one thing you wish you had the courage to do sooner?
Start the podcast, 100%, hands down. With the network marketing job, I was like, real quick decision. Yeah, let's do it. And I don't care what people are going to think about me. It's going to happen. But with the podcast, I had such an identity attached to it that I was really vulnerable about it. So it took me about 8 months to really build up the courage to put it out there, declare that I'm doing it, start recording episodes, and like start working on it. And it's funny because as soon as I made that decision, like 2 weeks later, I recorded, like, I don't know, your episode and a few more. And then, like, right after that, I had a really bad ski accident and got a concussion. And so it was like, the old me would have been like, okay, well, now I've got to milk this and get better. And like, of course, this is the cog in the wheel that's going to stop the podcast dead. And I just didn't let it, because it was something to me that I was like, no, I love doing this. It's really fun work. It's a great way for the people that are already in my network to get to know me even better, because on their social media feeds, like, it's just such a friggin' highlight reel, right? Like, and I'm guilty of
Hmm.
this. I don't want to post something about my life that could be negative, because when I see those posts, I'm just like, Yeah, makes you real, but I also like I just like to share my happy. Like I don't know why, I just do, right? Like that's just probably how I've been conditioned. But on the podcast, people are really investing that time with you to get to know you, and then it evolves better. And I saw that really quick and really early on, and so it was easy to continue on after the concussion and keep going with the podcast. But the biggest thing was when I would pitch it to people, like before I launched, and I pitch it to people like in my little hometown. So like not a lot of people are doing what I'm doing, right? And I'd always get the same reaction, and it was to the name. So the name of my podcast is Karina Talks Too Much. And I thought it was great because A, on every report card I ever got when I was a kid, that comment was there. And I never
Same, by the way. I totally got that too. Every time.
like bless my little mother's heart. She never like made me feel bad about it. Never. And probably I get it from her, right? Like she and my dad like never saw the report card, so he just didn't care. But the name of the podcast made me feel like people that don't know me aren't going to tune in because here's another person that's just going to talk too much. That's kind of the feedback I got from people. And then I'd be like, well, no, like, I'm going to keep the episodes really short. So if people look at it, they'll see this isn't like a 2 hour long episode that you definitely don't want to listen to because she's going to talk too much, right? And it's kind of for me, I'm a very humorous person, but my humor is like backhanded. And so for me, it was very a nod to the fact that like you have to talk too much to be a podcast host. Like you have to like the sound of your own voice and you have to just like go, go, go. And so for me, it was kind of like more of a jokey thing. And so when I actually got the courage, it was from a bunch of anonymous, like, well, they're not anonymous, but just people I don't know in a podcasting group. And I was like, okay, guys, here, I'm stuck. Like, this is what I want to do. This is the name. What are you guys thinking? And one girl was like, shut the front door. You have to name your podcast that for every single woman that's been told that she talks too much simply for having the audacity to speak at all. And that still gives me chills. That was it. That was the catalyst.
I have them. I have the chills right now.
Yeah, that was
I totally do.
oh, you're right. Maybe people in my hometown aren't gonna listen to it, but there's people that are gonna listen to it and they're gonna love it. And that's what happened. So that's my thing that I think I wish I would have started as soon as I had the idea and gusto. But it all worked out.
Yeah, for sure. And I totally agree. I spent probably the same amount of time thinking, like, oh, I really want to do a podcast, but what am I going to talk about? So, truly, I kind of knew what I wanted to talk about, but for some reason, I just felt like that had been done or, people had heard that message before or whatever. And what I'm finding is that there are so many people, not just women, but people everywhere that there you could have heard this message before, but you haven't heard it enough times because you're still not getting out of your own way and doing the thing. So, I was holding myself back from putting the message out there that I also actually still needed to hear. So it's kind of a weird, ironic way that it all came about. But finally, I was just like, whatever. I don't care if this fails. I am doing this because it just means so much to me. And I can't wait for other people to hear all the things that I've been hearing over the last couple of years. And I want to make sure that everybody else gets to hear them too. So I am so glad that you launched your podcast and I got to be on it because you totally
And I feel like
popped.
the timing, it all worked out because if I wouldn't have launched when I did, I wouldn't have met you. We wouldn't have been here, all of these things. So you can't really go back and look at that. But one thing I do want to comment before we move on, when you said about, I've heard that message before. I think a lot of us have that like comparison syndrome where you feel like, okay, well, there's already a million mommy bloggers, or there's already a million people doing Arbonne, or there's already, right? Like there's already somebody doing the thing that you want to do, but nobody's going to do it the way that you do it. And you're going to hit people in a way that is going to affect them differently, and they're going to stay because of it. And that's the most important thing to remember, I think, when we start these things, is that, yeah, there are people out there that do it, and not to look at it as competition, but look at it as these are your mentors, and that this is how they did it. Like, I find like in the podcasting land, everyone is super supportive and it's not competitive at all.
Agreed.
There's a lot of like, okay, I'll share your podcast, you share mine, like very, very, very collaborative. And I love that about our podcast land. But another thing, like I think you're like me too. I remember watching you when you were designing the artwork for your podcast, and that was something that hung me up too. Like, what do I use? How do I make it look? And I'm still not happy with the podcast artwork photo, but I'm like, it doesn't matter. Like, I just have to get it out there and I'll figure it out later. Like, that's just like minor little things. So I think that's something that we need to remember too is like, don't get hung up on the little things that people aren't really going to care about. Like they're
Right.
really just here for your message.
Well, yeah, I'll totally agree with that. I feel like over the last 8-10 months, I man, honestly, the one of the ways that we met was, we you had reached out to I had posted something in a group and you reached out to me and you were like, "Hey, let's chit chat, whatever." And I felt really lost. Like I knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I knew what I knew I had this message, but I kept trying to fit what I was already good at. Kept trying to fit the message into what I was already good at and trying to get this one thing going that I really love and I was passionate about, but I still didn't feel for some reason really aligned with that. And so we kind of talked a little bit. I talked to probably 1,000 people. I'm exaggerating, but still, it felt like 1,000 people trying to figure out what the thing was.
Mhm.
And yeah, I mean, it really took that long to just snap out of it and be like, what in the world? You know what you actually want to do. Why aren't you just doing that? Why are you trying to make it so complicated?
I think that's
So
I think we all naturally try and complicate things to give ourselves an excuse and a way out of actually
ooh.
the thing that's scary, that's going to put yourself out there, that's going to make you vulnerable, and that the majority of people, that's what they do. That's what I think. And I think that's what separates the real true success from just like the naysayers, like those people that were just after the quick money and network marketing and then shit on it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, that's so good. Man, I'm just sitting here soaking that in. That was really good.
Well,
Um,
yeah, yeah. I'm
Go ahead.
I'm just I remember, back this was probably what, like 8 months ago, 9 months ago when we
Yeah. Yeah, probably.
and I remember seeing your post and I think interact maybe that's how we met. I can't remember what the original post was, but I was like, "Girl, you're my peeps. Let's do this thing." I wish I did. Yeah, you were really I could see it that you knew what you wanted to do, but it was like you needed permission from somebody and then it was like you got on my podcast and for the first 5 minutes you were like really nervous and not really good. And then by the end of it, it was like you were so in it that it was like, okay, yeah, you're a podcaster, girl. Like, yeah,
Dude, this is the most fun I've ever freaking had, and every single time I'm gonna interview someone else, I get really nervous, but then at the end, I'm, like, sweating, of course, because I'm so nervous, but at the end, I'm like, "That was so much fun, and I just met my new best friend," and it's just man, I love
I
podcasting,
think
so I'm
that's the magic of podcasting. I really think it is because it is kind of like that private phone conversation. Or like you and I both have the same styles where I think that we're more of like a host. We don't have to have like a specific theme every single time. We could probably just talk for 30 minutes on nothing and everybody would still want to listen and be in that girl gang, you know? So
yeah.
I think that in podcasting, like that's the magic that you really are getting to know people. And then you see the like Joe Rogans and the Dax Shepherds and the people that do like these 2 hour long podcasts. And I remember when I first started thinking like, oh my God, I could never commit to anybody hanging out with anybody that long, like outside of my husband or like, your girl, super close girlfriends. But I could never commit to recording an episode at like 2.5 hours long. And now, especially now that I'm on the food science side, some of these scientists that I meet, I'm like, you need to come on my podcast and nerd out with me for hours. Like, we'll attract a whole new crowd. But it really is this like great way to just unify people and build community. And I think that really is what we need in an online world where everybody's just presenting what you want to see.
Yeah, and I agree with that, and I think that it's really fun. You know, I ask a lot of the same questions in every interview because everyone has their own story and their own way they came about to what they're doing and what their business is. So I love being able to get I like asking the same question to a lot of different people because everybody has a different answer. And so that may seem like I'm just, just phoning it in or whatever, but I'm genuinely interested in, okay, how did you get to the spot? What trigger made you realize like, man, this would be awesome to do as a living, and I would feel like I'm living my purpose. So I I love podcasting. It's just so
And
much
I
fun.
hate to be the jerk, but like it's easy, guys. It's actually open your mouth and talk. There's a little bit of back end to it, but it is like one of my favorite mediums to put content out for sure.
Yeah, it's so fun. Okay, so what has been your biggest win in your business?
Oh, biggest win. I'm one of those people that like when I'm in the $1,000,000 club, that'll be my biggest win. Like I never appreciate the little steps that get me to this big thing, and I really have to work on that. But I think my biggest win in my business right now is that I'm able to leverage my network marketing business to pay for my master's education. And so that's something that like I just didn't want my husband to have to pay for this beast of a brain of mine, and I just you know what I mean? I wanted it to be a real, true, "Okay, I earned this. I earned it from earning the income, and then I earned it from putting the time in and doing the schoolwork and what's needed," and I feel like it'll be a really poetic moment for me when I graduate with my master's in food science, having it all been paid for by my network marketing business. And I think that's going to be a really big message that people will be able to see and take from and see that you can change your life with businesses like this. Like if you're stuck in a crappy relationship or a crappy job or whatever, like you don't have to be stuck because there's opportunities out there that are not that hard. You just have to do them. And it really is, you just sort of get what you put in, right? And so for me, I've always invested right back into my business. I've never taken my paycheck and gone to Disneyland. Like it's always gone back into either advertisements or product sales for myself, or now I'm stockpiling every single paycheck for this beast of an education because I'm in Canada, but my master's program's in the States, and so I have to pay for it all in your
Oh, wow.
so it's I guess that's my big win, but I'm still not quite there yet because I'm not quite accepted into my master's program. I'm currently at my local university here, doing a few more biology classes before I apply. So it's about 2-3 years of formal education that my company is going to pay for. Like my income is going to pay for, and I don't take that lightly. I think that's a real special thing. So that's a big win. Thanks for bringing me humble.
So, tell me what you plan to do with your food science degree. I know we kind of talked about it before we got on the call, but I'm fascinated by what you plan to do with it.
Of
So,
course, yeah.
tell us.
Well, I kind of mentioned how my husband was diagnosed with just like a really bad wheat allergy 10 years ago. And so what that meant 10 years ago, like we've evolved a lot in 10 years in the gluten-free world. But 10 years ago,
Yeah.
it was very slim pickings for food. There wasn't a lot of education and resources out there. Many of the doctors hadn't seen this level of allergy, if you will, to something like wheat. And so I kind of dove in and really became my husband's healthcare advocate, and invested thousands of hours reading medical journals and just trying to figure out what was wrong with him because he didn't fit any of the boxes. And the more people I talked to, I realized that this was becoming like an epidemic in the age groups between like 25 and 40. People were just unable to tolerate wheat, and they either weren't aware of it until I started like maybe mentioning some of the symptoms that they could be having, or they were aware of it and just had no idea how to cut it out of their life because wheat isn't absolutely everything. So I started a business where I'd help people transition into gluten-free diets. So I was usually attracting people that had like celiac disease or autoimmune or MS or arthritis or stuff like that, right? And just teaching them the basics of how to go gluten-free because it's so overwhelming and you can feel so alone because food is such a social thing, right? So you get invited to a barbecue and you can't eat anything and you feel like you're offending people. So what I do is I really work with people to help build that knowledge base up and confidence up to be healthy and then also just like help them rebuild their gut track, right? And what that's led to is this extreme nerdiness in me that wants to study the genetic makeup of, today's wheat compared to the wheat from 1975, or why we as a generation are having a really hard time digesting certain proteins. What is it about the modification of those proteins? So I want to be a little nerdy birdie that gets government grants to study things, basically. A lot of what I do, like my education right now that I'm in, is a combination of math, chemistry, biology, and then agriculture studies. So I didn't want to go back to school to be a doctor because I feel like today, if you're in school to be a doctor, you're still being trained to primarily address chronic, not chronic conditions, pardon me, but like trauma conditions. Like that's your number one. That's how doctors get trained. And then secondary, we learn about like conditions and disease. And then lastly, it's like nutrition and prevention and stuff like that. And that doesn't speak to me. I'm somebody that really wants to prevent disease before it happens. And I 100% believe that that begins with our diet. That's our fuel. That's what every single one of us, every single day, is jamming shit in our mouth. And it 100% relates to how we're feeling, how we can produce, how everything is based on our foods. And so I really like to study food at the chemical compound layer because it's not all the same. And I'm not like, you might think I'm like anti GMOs. I'm not, shockingly. There's a lot of really great uses for it. But primarily, like my practice is still going to be focused around teaching people about whole foods, how to grow whole foods, how to provide for yourself, how to get the things that you need safely from online stores like my online boutique. And then just keep learning. I have a research, like a Government of Canada research station here in my town, just like 5 minutes away. And that is my ultimate goal, to be able to just sort of nerd out in the lab a couple days a week and learn things. So
Yeah, that's so cool. And I totally agree that the first step in healing ourselves is to look at our diet.
we're so
Yeah, I mean,
from our food today, like so disconnected. And so, I've taken it upon myself. I volunteer at my kids' school. I run a garden club program there. I'm teaching kindergartners how to grow things from seed to harvest. This is important for our kids to see that food just doesn't show up. So I'm a big advocate for sustainable living, just not poisoning our body with so much stuff that you don't even know is hurting you. There's a reason why we have so much disease. And so that's kind of more of the area where I like to focus on is disease and disease management. And so getting my PhD to be a GP it just didn't fit for me. I could go and do that, but I think by the time I would be finished, then maybe the medical community would come around and maybe switch things. But it's such a gigantic change that needs to happen the healthcare system, the education system, how we're preparing our doctors for what they're going to see in their practice when they come out. Like I experienced a lot of doctors early on with my husband who they were so old school in their practice that they couldn't even comprehend the ability to have a wheat allergy like my husband's. And it was just so far out of their scope that it was like, no, no, no. that's not what's happening here. And it's like, well, as a GP and as a practitioner, you have to always, it's like you're a scientist. You have to always remember that theories are just that. Even things that you want to take as fact could change in the future because of the way
right,
the world that we live in. So you have to have that open mind all the time. So I'm going to just
man.
yeah, I'm going to do my master's in food science and then I see where that leads me. I'd love to do my PhD one day, but I'm not sure in what. A lot of times I look at the food science stuff and I'm like, this doesn't really fit either. But for me, it's more of just having the credentials for when people come to me in my business and I'm talking all their ears off about, toxicity, autoimmune disease, gluten-free living, where they can feel comfortable with taking what I have to say from experience it's now also from education. Education.
Yes. No, I love that, and I think
Talk
that you totally hit the nail no, totally hit the nail on the head, though, with, being very conscious about what we're putting into our bodies and learning about how they affect us. I think that's a huge factor in the way we feel and the energy that we have, and like you said, diseases, autoimmune diseases, and things like that. So I praise you
mm.
so much. I'm so glad someone is going to go out and do that because I'm so glad it's not me.
Well, because, like, in social media times now, all it takes is, like, one whiff of some scared mom to say something about, their vaccinations or an allergy or something, and then it becomes Bible. Then it becomes everybody thinks that's true. And nobody's really looking at the everyday common factors that are in processed food, for example. That maybe that could be a trigger. Like, vaccinations are not bad. I am not against vaccinations. Sure, maybe we do them too frequently, too often, or maybe we're combining the oh, I'm having
Too many of them together.
one shot. Like, I know for my youngest son, we have to split them all up. So he ends up getting a lot more pokes, but we have to spread them over a longer period of time for him because of his autoimmune condition. So that for me makes more sense. Like, I don't mind the MMR, whatever it is, all in one. But do we really need to be doing that? Like, have we tested that properly? Like, maybe we have, but people take their maybes and their questions, and they're like, no, these are all bad, instead of actually going to the source, asking the right questions, understanding the science behind it, and how it protects us from today's disease. Because people are not dying from measles anymore. It's coming back because we've stopped vaccinating. So this is not, we're not going on a vaccination post. Oh my gosh. But it's about taking that personal responsibility about yourself, that you might not know what it might not be the truth. You might want to go and develop that further before really getting on that soapbox and saying this is how this is, and I'm gonna, you know, do things this way.
For sure. Yeah, I think, definitely doing your research and asking the people that actually know the answers is probably the first step in anything that any hypothesis that you develop. Let's go ahead and do a quick rapid fire because I know you've got to get to school. What book
Oh my gosh, yes, I do have to go to school. Okay.
what book
Go.
what book, article, person, or talk has changed your life?
A lot of Brene Brown's work has really developed my leadership in the last couple years. Specifically, I think most relevant to your listeners would just be go to her Netflix special, because most people have Netflix and it's easy to access and it's free and you don't have to buy a book, and you'll get a really
It's
good,
so good, right?
you get a really good feel. And even just like her vibe from the audience, the whole thing is just, she's she is a treasure for our generation, that's for sure. So Brene Brown for sure. But on the like casual reading side, not business related, I really enjoy an author called Douglas Copeland. He is actually from Vancouver. Well, he lives in Vancouver, and he's a mixed media artist, but he's also an author. And his writing style is so like my dark humor, my like comedy. One of my favorite books from him is called All Families Are Psychotic. Generation A is really, really good. But like he is, for me, he's somebody that inspires me to continue my work through not like direct leadership, just watching somebody else be so awesome in their own craft. Every time I put down one of his books, I'm like, oh, okay, I need to go and do my thing that I'm really good at.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, what's your favorite Friday night at home?
Oh my gosh, these are rapid fire and I'm like talking forever. I'm so sorry. What was the question?
No, it's what's your favorite Friday night at home?
I think with pizza and a movie on iTunes with the kids on the big couch and a fire.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. Woo woo.
yeah.
Yeah, I think that's most people's favorite Friday night, and we don't get to do it enough. What was your dream job as a kid?
Um, I wanted to be a librarian, so I guess I've been a nerd for a really long time. It's really like I like OCD. I like all the books to be lined up and in order, and I think I want to do that. But I also wanted to be a hairdresser. I was like, those were split.
Oh.
Could be like more polar opposite, because like a librarian, everybody shh, And then at the hairdresser, it's just like, "Da, da, 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 da." So
That is so funny. That's why you didn't become a librarian, because you talk too much, right? Oh my gosh, that's so funny. Okay, what is your best advice for helping our listeners live with audacity?
oh, just do it. Just do the damn thing. Forget about who you think is watching, because even if you think they hate you, they're watching you. And they're inspired by you, and they either are jealous of you because they see something of themselves in you that they're not acting upon. And so it's like this misplaced anger. They're like angry at you, but really they're angry at themselves. So just like go and do the thing and love on all your haters, because that's the best way to just,
Do the thing. Yeah, because I told my son this the other day. I was like, people are going to talk about you no matter what. You might as well give them something good to talk about.
I always tell my son that like other people's opinions of you, not your business.
So I've always heard that, but I don't I don't love that saying because it really bugs me. I don't like I get it, but I just don't really get it. I totally believe that in my own way, but I don't know. That saying just
Right.
I don't know, for some reason it rubs me weird.
All right. Note to self, don't say that.
No, I'm not saying that, goofy. Okay. Where can people find you to get more information about what you do and your group and all the things?
So I think the best place to find me is on my personal website. It's karinalanting.com. That's KarinaLanting.com. And then all of my links to all of the social feeds, all the podcasts, everything is there. So you can really get a feel for me there.
Perfect. Thank you so much for coming on. I always have so much fun chit-chatting with you, and we need to do it again soon.
Yeah, I think so, friend. This was awesome. Thanks so much for having me. And hi, everybody. It was great talking to you. Texans, I can't wait to come and meet you all. I just cannot freaking wait for the food fest and meeting all of you, because you're all so great.
You are going to come here and we are going to go eat all the meat, is what we always say. We're going to eat all the tacos
100% that's
and all the barbecue.
I haven't had red meat in like 10 years. And like one of the first conversations that me and Melissa had, I was like, oh, I need to come down there and eat the tacos. Like, I don't care if my system shuts down. I'm gonna need them.
Oh, God, bring an EpiPen or something.
Okay, thank you
All right, girl.
for the class. Okay, bye.
All right, thanks, honey. Bye. Did you love this episode of the Live with Audacity podcast as much as I did? I know you did. So if that's true, please head on over to iTunes or wherever you listen to podcasts, subscribe, leave me a review. Please let me know how I'm doing, and I hope to see you next week. Bye.